Welcome back. It's already getting a bit feisty here at the Barnsley Metrodome. We've not even got things underway yet, which bodes well for an exciting afternoon session. Day 2, as you can see, Marshall Kent going out for the Americans 4 times. But right now, it's time for match 1 of the afternoon session. Dominic Barrett up against EJ Tackett. And over to your commentators for the first time this afternoon. Hello to Cass Edwards and Nick Hawley.
Hello to you too, Tony. Let's hope this afternoon's session is as good as last night's session, because that really was enthralling. And we saw the Americans get off to that terrific start, 4-1 and really rolling, but then Jesper Larsson and then Dom Barrett hanging them back. Very interesting to hear the interview with Sean Rash, the skipper of Team USA, who is making just the 1 appearance in this afternoon's session. Didn't give too much away, but he said he's got a lower back strain. This is not the most physical of sports, let's be completely honest about that, but if you've got a bad back, it is very difficult to bowl to the best of your ability, and that could be a real big issue for the American skipper.
Certainly could, Nick, yes. All that bending and leverage, pressure put on the lower back, and there's a long way to go in this marathon tournament, and if Sean's not 100%, it could make a vast difference.
EJ Tackett there on the right will be hoping for better fortune than he had first time up when he ran into Jesper Svensson, excuse me, I'm getting my Scandinavian names tangled up there. But Jesper was far too good for everybody that he faced yesterday, and EJ bowled a 247, which was just nowhere near good enough. And that really just says it all, that anybody that's bowling around a 240-250 on this lane last night was not going to be waltzing off with the point. Dom Barrett had mixed fortunes, losing to Kyle Troop in the first singles match, pretty badly as well, it has to be said, by 56 pins, and then coming back in the Battle of the Captains and getting past Sean Rash, 255-224, really stepping up when they needed him.
And a very high percentage, strike percentage rate for all of these players. Scores have been really, really high, and as you say, a 240 could easily lose the game.
So the Indiana native gets off with a strike.
Yeah, playing deep inside and using the whole width of the lane and bringing that ball right back to the 1-3 pocket. Carrying all 10. We're playing on a freshly dressed lane, which has a lane conditioner on it, which is lane oil, and that goes down 40 feet down this lane before it breaks off, which leaves 20 feet of dry lane before the ball hooks up, and that is the hooking area, before the ball hooks up to the head pin and the 3-pin for the right-hander. And that's the snap area just there.
Well, Barrett certainly found it. Look, we heard Guy Kaminsky talking about that and talking about why it was Europe's favourite surface. It's significantly shorter than we saw last night. Why do the Europeans favour this particular lane pattern?
Well, they had great success on this lane pattern last year and the year before, and so they've come to it and hoping that they're going to probably pick up maybe 4, possibly 5 points in this session. As I say, it's a shorter pattern. It's 4 foot shorter than it was yesterday. And they picked up 3 points, and
he missed it badly. Well, he hasn't worked out the lane pattern there at all, has he? Dead on the head pin and getting a horrific split and a low pin count as well. Couldn't have been much worse, this, for EJ Tackett.
One would suspect that this is going to be an open frame, as you see, straight through the face of the number 1 pin. Leaves the 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, known as the Big 5. It's makeable, but it's extremely hard to get. You've got to be very accurate. But you can see on EJ's ball, look at that line of oil around the ball. And he gave it a good shot, but only 3, and unfortunately it's an open frame.
So the first error comes from the American, who leaves an open frame.
Well, the thing is, the ball just snapped up so quickly in that last 20 feet. As the game goes on, some oil will be pushed down into that 20-foot area, and the reaction of the ball may be slightly different, but first off, early doors, he got an overreaction.
All the players have had a chance to practice on this lane, so they can work out the nuances and subtleties of it.
And the other thing, Nick, about this this lane pattern is it's a 4-to-1 ratio, meaning in the centre of the lanes there's 4 times as much oil in the middle of the lane as there is to the right and the left-hand side. It tapers away either side. So just a 9 for Dom Barrett, leaves the 4-pin standing. If he spares this, it will be 10 pins for the spare and 9 for the ball on his first shot, which will make 19 pins.
Dom only just made the pocket there. We saw EJ badly miss the pocket, so let's see what kind of an adjustment Tackett will make here, and whether indeed Barrett will need to make a small adjustment next time he steps up as well.
Well, it may well be that he has to make that adjustment, because as I say, the back end of the lane, the last 20 foot is very dry at this moment. As more bowling balls go down the lane, as I said, the oil will transition down towards the pins, and there'll be a certain different reaction for the players, and they have to keep an eye on that. So they could be changing their line almost frame by frame.
Well, once again, not quite the pocket hit, but not quite the mess left at the end of it.
Well, it was certainly a better shot, and it was closer to the actually being in the 1-3 pocket. Again, it's just finished high on that hairpin. It's left to what they call the fast 8. It's the 4 and the 7 on the left-hand side. And you can see he's quite upset about leaving that. It can only be a spare.
What he's got to make sure of is making that spare as well, because, and again, you talked about the oil on the ball. You can see a streak of it there. He's got to make sure of this, and does. But yeah, these balls picking up a lot of oil. We saw Jesper Svensson last night really taking his time to just get that oil cleared off the ball.
Yes, ideally they should wipe the ball clean every time with a towel, but if you're lined up and the ball's moving in exactly as you want it, just don't knock it. Just leave it.
He's back in the pocket there, and that's the result. Back on strike for the Colchester man.
Yeah, it takes a very nice 23-pin lead to start with in frame 3, rips the rack, carries the 10-pin for all 10. Tackett is the 2016 PBA World Champion and Player of the Year for that year. And earlier this year, he won the PBA Tournament of Champions. So we are looking at a world, absolutely class player who's come back with a strike.
A lot of people are saying, Cass, that this is the current form horse of the 8 players that we've got here.
Well, he's up for Player of the Year again this year, which could be 2 years in a row. That doesn't happen very often. He's had some super wins throughout the season. There's a few more tournaments to go back in the States before the end of the year, and all these guys will be going out there. All 8 players played the American Tour, and then they'll be hoping to be home in time for Christmas.
Barrett doubles up, so that maintains his healthy advantage, and it puts the pressure now on Tackett, who's got to try and stay clean. He's got to put 5 or 6 together, you'd think, to get any kind of chance.
Well, not necessarily Tackett getting 5 or 6 in a row. If Dom can do that exactly, he's got the lead, and he'll remain in the lead.
Keep it, yeah.
It's up to Dom to possibly give it away. Not that we'd want him to see him do that.
Tackett's just got to stay. Oh, went very wide there. It took a very wide angle of attack, but it really did cut in and take those pins out.
Absolutely fantastic looking shot. He got outside to the real outside boards of the lane. You watch how wide this is. Outside that down lane marker, and it comes roaring back when it gets into that dry area. He's got so much rotation on the ball, and he's happy with that now. Can he maintain that shot and repeat it time after time?
Yeah, he'll want to. I mean, that was a perfect pocket hit. Just smashed the rack. Barrett. Ooh, drifted out of the pocket again, and again has left the single pin.
A totally different line from Dominic Barrett, playing a lot straighter down the lane, not looking for so much hook, whereas EJ was almost sort of coast to coast. See how straight this is, just turns up at the end nicely. Unfortunately, a little high on the head pin. Leaves that 4-pin standing on its own, so it can only be a spare, which will be worth 19. Hard and straight ball, no room for error.
And a strike here from Tackett will put the American within touching distance.
Yeah, the difference moves to 12 pins with Tackett working 2 strikes in a row.
Yeah, it's finally balanced this one as we go into the second half. Frame 6. That. Again, he's taking that very, very wide line that produced such a result from him the previous frame.
Well, he's all revs, isn't he? Look at the rotation on that ball. He comes absolutely roaring back. Unfortunately, again, it's not quite in the pocket. It's high on the head pin. Leaves one standing. It's all very well having these high revolution bowling balls hooking all over the place, but if you don't make the pocket properly, you are not going to carry 10 pins.
Should be a formality, and indeed is, but having pulled to within touching distance, Tackett knows that a strike here from Barrett, and he's back chasing again.
An interesting little stat, Nick, after yesterday's session of 7 games, there was only 14 pins difference between the two teams.
It's amazing.
And the averages were extremely high as well. Europe averaged 259 for their 7 games, and USA 261 for their 7 games of singles. So it's all very, very tight, including the 4-3 lead that the USA have at this particular time.
Well, if Barrett can tack a couple more on like that, we'll be level at 4-all. That's exactly what Barrett needed, having seen his opponent get a spare. This to restore the 20+ pin advantage, and a flawless strike.
Yes, as you say, Dominic saw that EJ had the spare and he just went and blasted a strike, which is what you're going to have to do, and he'll try and double up on that in frame 7.
And it puts the pressure on Tackett, who's been a bit up and down. He's had a double, he's had an open frame, he's had a couple of spares, and he's right on the head pin again. He's just not found a consistent line at all, and I think, barring a miraculous spare shot here, that's pretty much this match done and dusted right there, and he's only got himself to blame. He's just not found a consistent pocket hit.
Yeah, straight through the head pin. He's left the 3 and the 6 and the 4 and the 7. It is a makeable spare, but it's a low count to start with. It's a difficult spare to pick up, and the last thing he needs now is an open frame, because you can bet your life that Don Barrett was going to step up and shoot another strike, and that will be the game over, I think.
Well, just look at his maximum, it's 241, but that's if he makes this spare, which he really needs, and no, he's gone for it. So that's going to drop even lower now, 232. So the slender lead in 2 frames has become a yawning chasm now. And Tackett's misery in singles play is continuing here, beaten by Jesper Svensson last night. He's run into an informed Dom Barrett here, and only a collapse by the Team Europe captain will allow the American to get back into this, you would think.
Yes, he's been a little bit inconsistent on the line that he's been playing. He's got the ball out right to the right-hand side of the lane and brought it back for a split. That time he wasn't in the same area, and again he's had a split. And 2 open frames in a match that's going to be this high scoring, or have matches that are this high scoring at the moment. Certainly not going to pick up a point. So Don Barrett looking for a strike here, and probably the next point for Europe to square the match up at 4 each.
Well, that'll do it. He can spare out from here, Barrett, comfortably. Probably even afford himself an open frame with a lead like this, but leaving nothing to chance. And as Guy Kaminsky was saying downstairs, this lane has been this lane condition has been so good for Europe down the years. And as you said it, Cass, they'll be looking for ideally 4, maybe even 5 victories in this afternoon session of 7. Well, they're certainly on course for the first one, and Tackett trying to avoid dropping into the 220s here. Now that was much better. It's come far too late, of course.
Well, it was much straighter, wasn't it? Totally had to change his line. He had nothing going for him at all. And he almost played the Don Barrett line. Straighter down the lane, just a little bit of hook at the end, right in the 1-3 pocket and carries 10. And he wishes he'd started earlier on that line, I'm sure.
Seal it. That is a turkey for Don Barrett, and from being 4-1 down at one point, the Europeans are going to level this Weber Cup up 4 apiece at the start of this Saturday afternoon session.
Secures a 42-pin lead with 2 frames to go. Pretty much done and dusted.
Interesting that Barrett is really starting to kick it up to high gear. His first singles match was a 232, his second was a 255. He's going to be higher than that, and a 10-pin not going. Tackett, in contrast here, is now posting the lowest individual score that we've seen at this year's Weber Cup.
I'm sure he'll be pleased that you mentioned that, Nick.
Well, it's just the contrast, isn't it, that Barrett is now punching it up, going through the gears, whereas Tackett, who didn't bowl badly in his first defeat at 247, is not shabby, but he's only just made that 10, you know, and he's really struggled here today, and he's up next in doubles as well with Kyle Troop, so he needs to shrug this off pretty quickly.
You're quite right, yes, he's going to be the same lane dressing. He certainly has to find a line.
Barrett is also up next in doubles with Jesper Svensson, and he'll want to carry on where he's left off here. So this has been a very, very strong second half from the European skipper.
Yep, a potential 278 if he can strike one more. He's definitely got the crowd in his pocket.
Well, that's the way he would have wanted to finish, but he won't be bragging about a 221 anytime soon.
Yeah, but unfortunate, 2 massive open frames there, kept the scores down. Only 5 strikes for EJ, and Dom is really working the crowd now. A bit of showboating. Changes the line totally, but that's just a learning curve for the next game. Spare here will give him 267. Out comes the shiny hard ball. It will go hard and straight for the single pin spare.
And that'll do it. Comfortable. Very comfortable for Don Barrett. 267 plays 221. A 46-pin victory that was never really in any doubt once EJ Tackett left that open frame. 4-1 it was, 4-4 it is, and it's Europe with the initiative. We'll be back with doubles play in just a couple of moments.